those are people who have chosen to lose their money over time and take $1,000 negative carry on and rent it out at a loss. Those operators are incentivized to get a tenant in as soon as possible to just stop the bleeding.
Shrubs.me, your all-in-one digital hub. Share files, links, videos, and more from one beautiful customizable page. Get your free account with 2.5 gigabytes of cloud storage today at shrubs.me. What do you think, though, really? Do we have that much? Or is that a Canada-wide thing? Like Canada's got too much rental? Or
Well, it's a market by market thing. Like Halifax has like, I don't know, 6 to 10% of their rental market under construction right now. It's going to have an impact on vacancy and rents. Toronto, we have this wave of condos, but then after that, everybody who's trying to build rental is dealing with what you guys were just talking about, right? Like you can't make them pencil really. So Toronto, we're not really super at risk of purpose-built rental overbuilding our rental market and putting downward pressure on rents. It's going to happen. We're seeing downward pressure on rents, but we're not seeing it at the scale that I could see it happening in Alberta, BC, Atlantic
BC
Canada.
sounds scary.
Yeah, BC is nuts.
So you're saying that this is a national issue, but you think Toronto is going to be the most insulated?
I don't think it'll be the most insulated. I think it'll be the most insulated to that phenomena, but it's not, it doesn't mean that it's not, we don't have our own problems. Like we have a different brand of problem, which is the same thing from this whole condo supply that is also going to go into the rental market. And basically all the people who aren't realizing losses in the way that you described by selling down 80K or whatever are doing, those are people who have chosen to lose their money over time and take $1,000 negative carry on and rent it out at a loss for the next 5 years. And all of those condo units are basically, I mean, those operators are incentivized to get a tenant in as soon as possible to just stop the bleeding. To
drive rents down because they're going to have to just take what they can get. Richard Lau from ResCon was on last week or the week before.
He's great. And he gets it.
Yeah. And so because he's on that side, I kind of, I always look at it from like being devil's advocate and stuff like that. Do you really think that we're going to have a shortage? Because you're talking about potential oversupply, but all the developers are now like, because we're not selling any pre-con, there's going to be a shortage in 5 years. We're not going to have any places for anybody to live. And we're going to go back in that cycle again. Like that rhetoric, how do you read into
all
that?
Depends on population growth. I mean, right now population's growth 0. If they bring it back to 1% by 27, yeah, we'll have a shortage. If they don't, then we likely won't. My expectation, what I'm modeling for is probably rents fall for the next year, and then they start going up because they're going to turn the tap back on with immigration, and probably they'll also not renew the foreign buyer ban in 2027 either, just very quietly, right? Everyone's calling for them to remove it. It's like that's political suicide, right? But they can just quietly not let it. Yeah. Oops. Yeah. Sorry, we forgot to recheck that box in 2027. And that's when I expect. And then they'll also get rid of the stress test probably next year. OSFI's already studying that right now, and that study concludes in November of this year. So they want to
stress the banks.
Yeah, so they're stress testing the banks on loan to income across the whole portfolio. So basically, banks can only lend to 4.5x income across the whole portfolio. And if that yields similar or better results than the stress test, then they'll get rid of the stress test.
That's an average percentage across the board? Like some people are at 12% and some are at 1 or whatever?
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a different way of
So
doing
it allows them to open the doors for certain people, and other people, they can be a little bit more restrictive, right?
Yeah, exactly. There is also another cap on like the total percentage of their book that can be over 4.5%.
4.5, exactly. Yeah. Which in theory makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, and really like that's who we should be regulating, because they've realized that, the homeowners, like it's very similar to what happened with the variable rates, right? So this creates a bit of a perverse incentive in the market where, I guess in 21, when the bond market was calling that rates were going to rise, but the Bank of Canada still hadn't started, fixed rates were going up. And so because of the stress test, you could go qualify at the fixed rate, which was now above that 5% benchmark. Or if you wanted to qualify at the 5% or 5.25 or whatever it was, you would go into the variable. And so everyone was piling into the variable rate, not because it was a better move or they didn't feel risk or whatever, but simply because it gave them a marginally more buying power. And so that is completely the opposite of what we want from the stress test, right?
Yes.
That was a little bit of a whoopsie. Then now we're seeing something similar where baby boomers are piling on debt at a faster rate than any, not baby boomers, 55 plus is piling on debt at a faster rate than anybody else in Canada. Why would they be doing that? Well, because they're all co-signing for their kids, right? Something like
Right.
40% of first-time homebuyers had somebody other than them and their spouse on title. Who is that?
Yeah.
That's mom and dad.
Got
So
it.
bank of mom and dad's giving them money as down payment or maybe even a HELOC, and then they're also co-signing on the loan. This is another way that people circumvent the stress test by
Mhm.
increasing the income and adding another borrower to the loan. And that's creating more risk, not less risk, right?
Yeah.
Like because you're increasing now the credit file's exposure to mom and dad's house and mom and dad's credit, you know?
Future, yeah.